Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where right now the big question in Hollywood is, will Avatar: The Way of Water and essentially James Cameron save the movie business yet again? But they put him in a position where he's the only one to save the movie business. I've never seen such a gimme, both in terms of box office and likely the Oscars. There is no competition. They just handed it to him. It's really weird. Let's discuss. So Hollywood is so sad about the box office right now. They're like, oh my gosh. But effectively, they're only releasing one or two movies this whole holiday season. Because, Thanksgiving usually will release a couple of movies that'll play throughout the entire holiday season. Let's take a look back in time. So for 2018, this is pre-pandemic. You had Bohemian Rhapsody, The Grinch, The Crimes of Grindelwald. I know these aren't all huge winners, but, they all contributed to the overall pot. Ralph Breaks the Internet, Creed 2, Into the Spider-Verse, Mary Poppins Returns, Aquaman, and Bumblebee. Remember when we were like, what should we see for Christmas Day? We actually have choices. 2019, the year right before the pandemic. Terminator Dark Fate. Again, not all winners. But, that was supposed to be. Doctor Sleep, same thing. Parasite, that box office was actually pretty solid, so that's why I'm listing it here. Ford v. Ferrari, Frozen 2, Knives Out, Jumanji: The Next Level, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, Spies in Disguise, Little Women, what a good movie that was, and 1917 was just getting started. That ended up being a big box office winner. It played for months, plus a sprinkling of awards movies both years that audiences actually wanted to see. This year, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, The Menu, Strange World, Violent Night, Avatar: The Way of Water, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, I Want to Dance with Somebody, that review embargo lifts right before release. I have seen the film, and Babylon. So, and then a bunch of awards films that the general public has zero interest in. So, that's not even like operating at like a little bit of a lower level there. There's just really nothing to get people excited about going to the theater for. So now you can see why theater owners and Hollywood in general are pretty ticked off with Netflix over pulling Glass Onion. By the way, when I was looking through these release schedules for the previous years, I was reminded that Bird Box and Roma were just 2018 and The Irishman 2019. That's how short a time Netflix has legitimately been in the movie business. Bird Box was just them getting started. Isn't that interesting? They've made good use of the pandemic. Now it seems like they're huge players in the movie business. And back then it was quite controversial. They were even trying to get into it. But even if audiences were to take an interest in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, I Want to Dance with Somebody, and Babylon, what size screen are you going to see it on? You'll be forced to see it on a tiny little screen, probably the same size or smaller than the big screen TV most of you have at home. I mean, Disney has gobbled up almost every single premium screen. I mean, do they need both the IMAXs and the Dolbys at every theater? I mean, it's just crazy. And all the large screens on top of that. You can't even see it on a regular large screen. Forget a premium. So you might as well stream those movies if that's the best theatrical experience you can get. I mean, I don't know why more of a fuss isn't being made about that. The Disney's not only, muscled out all the major competition, but it isn't even leaving space for the smaller films. So what the heck happened to the major competition? Well, not only is Hollywood's pipeline still behind because of production problems thanks to the pandemic, but Warner Brothers Discovery can't afford to release no movies. They can't afford it. Sure, Aquaman 2 is very similar to Black Panther: Wakanda Forever and Avatar: The Way of Water. I feel those two movies are even going to hurt each other. But speaking of water, the market is thirsty for some competition. So I would take an Aquaman 2, especially if they're going to reboot, baby. Let's just get this over with. Give us something else to watch. Or bring back Shazam 2, even though it's now not a Christmas movie. Bring that back. I mean, they did have a problem with Black Adam. Black Adam is just a huge box office bomb. It's undeniably a box office bomb, which makes it so weird that anyone would try and say it's not. So how much box office embarrassment and, can Warner Brothers Discovery and the DC brand really take? I think they need a bit of a break, at least, in between fiascos. But there are other movies that could be opening. Wonka is in the can. Where's Wonka? Instead, Warner Brothers Discovery is going to release Aquaman 2 and Wonka both next December back to back. That's ridiculous. And I mean, talk about burning money. And why? I mean, I guess maybe they were like, we don't want to crowd Bones and all. Timothy Chalamet can't promote both. I think he seems pretty available. And why is MGM sitting on Creed 3? That would have been great right now. And how about this? I think Paramount, just because they're scared of Avatar, missed a huge opportunity potentially with Dungeons and Dragons. It could have been the new Jumanji, man. It could have been the new Jumanji and played all the way up until Ant-Man and the Wasp opened. I think they should have done that. I bet that movie's short and sweet too in terms of running time. While Avatar 2 and Babylon both clock in, this is ridiculous. Why is Babylon over 3 hours? Not counting trailers and commercials. What kind of a commitment is that on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve? That's nuts. You're going to be spending your entire time in the theater, or you're going to get out just in time to do what in the evening? Go home and watch another Christmas movie? I mean, I think it's ridiculous. I think Dungeons and Dragons could have been something in this spot. It's a huge missed opportunity. But with absolutely no competition and playing on pretty much every single screen, not just the premium screens, not just the large screens. Avatar 2 is basically, when you walk up to the box office this holiday season, they're going to say, do you want to see Avatar 2? And you'll be like, no, I already seen it, or I don't want to see it. And they'll go, how about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish? And you're going to go, no, you got anything else? And they'll be like, no, those are your two choices. Pick one. Puss in Boots. I like both movies, to be honest with you. But I don't think that, especially for avid moviegoers, I just don't think you have the kind of choice that not only helps the movie business, but makes it feel like it's great to be at the movie theater. You want to feel like there's a plethora of choices. You're like, oh man, we have to come back. Instead, you're like, oh, there's nothing here. Let's just forget the whole thing and just stream it all later. That's, I think, part of the problem. So Avatar could now open. They're pegging it. I don't know if this is just wishful thinking, because remember it was supposed to open with like maybe 135 to 175, and the first one opened like with just 77, but that was of course a very long time ago, and there's been inflation and all that. But they're thinking now it might open with $200 million. Let's see. But that would make it one of the top 10 openings of all time. Again, there's nothing else to see. This is ridiculous. As for this last paltry weekend before Avatar 2 opens, no surprise, it was the second worst weekend of the year at the box office after the last weekend of January. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever has been number one for 5 weeks straight now, a rare accomplishment, but less impressive when the other studios just hand Disney the win. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever will pass Multiverse of Madness at the domestic box office for sure now in the next few days, but globally, it's still 200 million behind. And with Avatar 2 about to descend upon the globe and take up all the theaters, no way that Black Panther: Wakanda Forever can close that gap. It will probably end right about 800 million, either right below 800 million or right above it. At least it managed to beat out Thor: Love and Thunder, but I gotta be honest with you, and you can see for yourself, not by much. So how is Thor: Love and Thunder a colossal disaster, but Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is just fine? It's not just fine. I mean, again, it's not an embarrassment, but it's a little close to one. I don't think Shuri will be Black Panther for long, which is too bad because she did a fantastic job, but the audience has spoken. Also, as I said even in my review and in my discussion about the film from a business perspective, I do feel it's a bit of a downer of a movie, understandably so, but I'm sure that also probably affected it, its performance. And also, I just think Marvel's in a weird space right now. Just like in the comics, what do you know? Just like Marvel now had to wrap up and be largely retconned, I think you're going to see the same thing happen in the MCU. I still can't believe that Kevin Feige looked at the performance of Marvel now and felt it would go different for him. It's like it's already been tested, and it tested poorly. As to the rest of the top 10, Violent Night had a fantastic hold in its second weekend. Really, that's very good, but these are small numbers. Thank goodness Violent Night's budget is another small number. And I still believe this will hit digital the week of Christmas, fitting Universal's 17-day window play for its smaller movies. The bleeding has also stopped on Strange World, but it was never pumping much blood to begin with. The Disney animated movie is now at 53.4 million worldwide. Ouch. That's so bad. How can that not be a reckoning for Jennifer Lee? How can it not be? It's just so bad. The Menu is just 1 million behind Strange World domestically. It's less, but Hollywood is desperate for a win. So the trades are pointing out that it has performed better than other small highbrow horror films. But so I think the question to spin out of that comparison is whether or not Anya Taylor-Joy is on Samara Weaving's level or Florence Pugh's. I would think Florence Pugh's, but it's taking her a lot longer to level up, but not for lack of trying. We'll see if the Furiosa prequel can finally do the trick for her. I saw the menu. I got a screener, so I watched it. I definitely think it's a streaming movie, so I think it'll probably do pretty well on streaming. But I watched it on Friday night. I was very excited to be able to watch it at home. And it's okay. It's okay. I think it's definitely the weakest of these three films and more a short story than a feature film. And pretty bleak. And, I just didn't think there was enough there. I didn't particularly care for it. If you want to watch a bleak, highbrow, slick, produced movie, go watch Triangle of Sadness, which we'll talk about in the iTunes section. But if only Anya Taylor-Joy could be Tom Holland's Black Cat or Matt Reeves' Harley Quinn. If only! In the specialty market, that would be so great for her. But I don't know. Is she not popular? She was really popular in The Queen's Gambit. Why is she not connecting? What's your theory? In the specialty market, The Whale, in just 6 theaters, posted the best per theater average of the year, topping Everything Everywhere All at Once. But critics are turning on the film, and I suspect this is another Mother rather than Black Swan, with most people who are interested in the movie probably having seen it this opening weekend. So I suspect it only goes down from here. And I'll be curious to see if Brendan Fraser can keep the momentum going. I think, personally, it should be Colin Farrell's year. But Brendan Fraser will most likely for sure be nominated. Spoiler alert, from Focus Features went semi-wide and managed to crack the top 10, if not $1 million. Not at all, not even total. It's its second week. It's not even at $1 million. And while it looks like a very sweet movie, I know some of you have seen it and told me and tweeted me that you really enjoyed it. It looks a lot like a streaming movie. So Focus is also a division of Universal, so don't be surprised if this hits digital Christmas week as well, or right after for that Christmas, New Year's, between crunch time, when again, people got nothing to do but watch content. It is also holiday themed, but it's also a downer. It's a very sad movie, as you can obviously see from they're very clear about it. Spoiler alert. Empire of Light is the latest awards film that nobody cares about, at least in theaters, because I was delighted to see so many people streaming She Said on digital this weekend. We will discuss that in the iTunes section as well. So yes, let's move over to streaming, but as always, we start with Nielsen. For the second week of November, this is when The Crown Season 5 debuted, and all 5 of its seasons are right behind Manifest's 4 seasons, both Netflix shows. So, in fact, the only non-Netflix show on the overall chart is Disney Plus's Bluey, so now you see why she got a Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade balloon. I'd like to note, by the way, that White Lotus is already on its second episode this week, the second week of November. It was already in its second week. Yet because it's an acquired show on HBO Max, it's technically an HBO show, its full viewership isn't counted. But unlike House of the Dragon, it hasn't popped up on the overall chart or even in the acquired chart. So as you can see, here's the acquired chart. No White Lotus. We'll keep an eye out as the season progresses. It's done very well for HBO Max overall because it's been renewed for a third, not a season, because it does not compete in the drama category. So for a third iteration, but I think it's interesting that it's not anywhere to be seen on these charts. The much anticipated finale is tonight. I'm very excited for it. And again, we'll see as episodes accumulate if it can maybe finally at least break into the acquired chart, if not the overall. But that's how far behind Nielsen is, that we're on the season finale tonight and we're only looking at episode 2 in terms of ratings on Nielsen. And also underlines how much Warner Brothers Discovery is handicapping its shows in the ratings game with the headlines because of the stupid HBO Max split. But there's maybe nothing they can do about it because HBO has been a premium cable service it was the premier premium cable service before there was ever anything called streaming, and I think it has a lot of contractual obligations that are hard to dissolve. But they should be working on that. As long as it takes for Disney to acquire all of Hulu, it might take that long for HBO, whoever owns HBO and HBO Max to make it a single entity. But they should really be working on that. On the originals chart, Warrior Nun debuted this week, and here it is at number 4, just on the originals, couldn't make the overall, and that's a low watch time number, which just goes to show you these shows aren't doing great besides the top too. Andor's back on the originals chart, at least, for episode 10, which is the best episode of season 1. But it's still struggling. It's really, really struggling. Critics' Choice nominated it for a lot of awards, so if maybe Andor can clean up in the awards area, that'll make it worth the while. With movies, Enola Holmes 2 is still on top, but again, these watch time numbers are only okay. Also this week, Black Panther Wakanda Forever hit theaters, and so the original Black Panther popped into the top 10, right behind Don't Worry Darling, which debuted on HBO Max. And again, Warner Brothers Discovery doesn't debut digital and on HBO Max day and date, so by the time it gets to HBO Max, a lot of people have already watched it by paying for it digitally. And Warner Brothers Discovery wants that money. They don't care about the headline here. And that's good, because these watch time numbers for both Black Panther and Don't Worry Darling are ridiculously low. On Netflix's own charts for just this past week, no movies are setting this aflame either. Even Sony's Bullet Train, which I thought would do better when it just hit the service at no extra cost. I guess, again, Sony's doing the same thing. Everybody watched it on digital before it became available on a streaming service at no extra cost. But you would think the star-studded actioner would debut higher than number 5. It is competing with a ton of Christmas movies, as you can see. But look at Wednesday. Talk about setting a fire. Wow, which Wednesday would love to do. It's even higher in her first full week on the service. Wednesday is now Netflix's number 5 show of all time, behind Squid Game, Stranger Things 4, Dahmer, that's pretty impressive for Dahmer, and the final season of Money Heist. But this has only been 12 days for Wednesday, and it's still going incredibly strong, as you can see, so we'll see how much higher it climbs. That's amazing. Not only am I very excited for Wednesday season 2, but I can't wait to see how the second season levels up creatively and budget-wise now that it's a phenomenon. Deservedly so. Deservedly so. And that just goes to show you that you have a window. Anya Taylor-Joy has taken so long to level up after The Queen's Gambit. Netflix has a new It Girl with Jenna Ortega. And I hope that she does a better job handling her career and can get something pretty fast. I heard that she was not cast as White Tiger, or at least it wasn't official on the Daredevil show. I think she can do much better than that, and I hope that she does. Over on iTunes, she's a lead. As I said when I reviewed Wednesday, that's a star turn for sure. As for iTunes, Christmas movies have taken over here as well, thanks to big sales on the digital service. But I'm quite happy to see Triangle of Sadness and She Said both in the top 10. As you know, I loved She Said, and this gives me hope for its awards chances, that people are discovering the film in this space. Triangle is quite smart and interesting as well, but really slows down to a crawl at the end of the second act, almost becoming unwatchable. I bet you a lot of people turn it off at that point, which would be too bad because it picks up again substantially for the third act. But if it hadn't been so bad at the end of the second act, I would have nominated it on my Critics' Choice ballot for Best Original Screenplay. As for this coming week, yes, it's Avatar: The Way of Water. Are you going opening weekend? Are you waiting to see reviews? The embargo lifts on Tuesday. Or are you waiting for audience word of mouth? I think word of mouth will be crucial here because so many people, it's taken so long for this franchise to return, a lot of people just simply do not believe that it's that good. Also, I think a number of people are, at least online, are tired of Disney dominating and they feel it's unfair. But let's see what the general public has to say as they vote with their money. It'll be very interesting indeed to see what that opening weekend looks like and what the audience scores are. We'll be covering it here on Movie Math. We're not doing a ticket montage because it's holiday season, so I just don't have time to put that together. But I'm very curious to see how this does. And we'll be discussing it in depth next weekend. On streaming, Black Adam will once again work to counter-program. Remember, it hit digital against Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and now that Avatar 2 is opening, it's hitting HBO Max on Friday as well, at no extra cost. Has anyone not watched Black Adam yet? Were you waiting for it to be available at no extra cost? Your time has come, or will you watch it again now that you can watch it at no extra cost? That's interesting as well. I'm curious. Then Nanny debuts on Prime Video. That's supposed to be an awards contender, but it doesn't really have any traction. And Alejandro Inarritu's Bardo drops on Netflix. As for streaming shows, on Tuesday, Kindred starts on Hulu. That's like a time travel show. I only saw something about it today for the first time. So come on, Hulu, advertise this stuff. Well, Tom Papa drops a new comedy special on Netflix. I don't always mention comedy specials, but when I really like the comedian, as I do here, I like to put it on your radar. Wednesday, National Treasure returns, reimagined to Disney Plus as the service continues to look for a non-Marvel Star Wars hit, and so far has not found one. But what a time for Catherine Zeta-Jones, though. She, of course, co-stars, she has a smaller role in Wednesday. I'm sure it will be bigger in season 2, and they've already said they want to enlarge her role, but she, I believe, is like the villain or mentor in the National Treasure show. She's like taking on the Nicole Kidman roles. She's like become the new Nicole Kidman. In fact, I'm pretty sure Nicole Kidman has worn that wig. Thursday, ABC has their live-action Beauty and the Beast special, while Netflix has Sonic Prime and Christmas comedy special, Who Killed Santa. Nobody really watched Murderville, but I don't know, Jason Bateman and Will Arnett is a pretty tantalizing combination. And I forget there's a third person too. I forget who it is, but it's a pretty good lineup of comedians. While on Friday, Netflix drops The Recruit, and we see if Noah Centineo can stand on his own after the Kissing Booth movies, multiple movies, but that made him famous, and then, of course, Black Adam, which made everybody question whether or not anybody actually wants to see Noah Centineo. And that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And how do you think Hollywood has handled the 2022 holiday season for movies in theaters? Share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.